My name is Booth, and what we're looking at here is a 1968 Moto Guzzi Ambassador. It's the 8th one out of 100, and it is fairly unique in that they only made 100 because they shipped them very quickly from Italy. This bike was made by a company that's still in business. It's a very old marquee called Moto Guzzi. Tend to be hand built, especially back then, and so they used whatever parts were around and were eager to get it on the market. And they hadn't developed the new body styling and tank for the 750 yet, so they simply used the 700 body. When I first got it, it was a ramshackle shape. It was on its last legs, but it was the only bike that I could afford at the time, and I really did love the styling. I actually fell in love with it. The Speedo mount is beautiful. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, and it matches the front end perfectly. The rake of the front end is gorgeous. I'm quite used to it. I'm not used to the more modern front ends anymore. I can't really ride them. If you look at the head bucket, it's got this long draw. A couple of years later, the headlight buckets become quite a bit fatter and squatter. Tank is gorgeous. I really like the detailing and how they decided to style the shocks, the rear suspension. I love the alloy rims with the stainless spokes, and the hubs are fantastic as well. I like the simplicity of the color scheme. In its time, it was like going to the moon. It had hardened chromed cylinders. The posters at the time said, "Think big, go Guzzi." And then it was for touring, and this was a 4-speed for touring in 1968. So, and they really did have a fantastic sensibility. Moto Guzzis tend really to be gentleman bikes. They're not nasty. This one is really just an old friend for me. It took me the first 10 years of owning it to rebuild it, to finally restore it, and I'd taken it apart and put it back together, but I never had money to do the proper body work to it and the paint job and all that. I did that about 10 years ago again, and now it's pretty much ready for another restoration because I use it as a daily rider. Initially, the parts were very hard to find, and you couldn't get pipes or mufflers or anything, and that's when I started rebuilding it. Now, with the advent of the internet, it's very easy to get parts all around the world. Somebody always has something you need. Engineering involved in the early Moto Guzzis was baffling. The wiring was terrible, and the cable management for the throttle and the brake and the clutch and choke were just a mess. That I didn't understand charging batteries and stuff like that, and I used to have to run and jump start it all the time. I've managed to streamline all of that, and actually I just got rid of all the electrical except for the headlight and the tail light. Well, how it feels when I start up my bike, if I haven't started it up in a while, it's exhilarating, because you know you're in for a ride. I associate good times riding it, and so emotionally, it's great to ride. Physically, I groan when I get on it now, as opposed to when I was 25. It's a very rigid ride. It's very stiff because the suspension isn't very good. I never changed it. I'd rather have the looks. The motorcycle itself handles really well. It's fairly nimble. The way the gearbox is, it's like almost an automatic. Third gear basically does everything. You know, it's a 4-speed. I've spent most of my life looking for the 5th speed on it. Constantly trying. It's got to be there. Now I've ironed all the kinks out of it, and it's quite reliable. But it's still old. It's a 42-year-old bike, and it's starting to show its age. Other bikes have got their own charm, but I've come to really love this particular one, and it's the styling. It's all in the style. It's almost perfect. I mean, personally, it's just an old friend I've had for a long time, and I can't imagine not having it. I would be very sad, as a matter of fact, at the loss. The worst part about owning this bike is that my dad still thinks it's a hunk of junk. And he doesn't understand why I don't have a Harley or a BMW.
(1942) Harley Davidson, model WLC, Canadian Army issue.